If you're like me, you were told to start off on a beginner bike and then move on to your dream bike next, or maybe even get a 600 before you move up to that leader bike for your third bike. So I followed that advice. I started off on a 2019 SV650. I put 10,000 miles on it in my first year. Next, I bought one of my dream bikes, a 2002 Honda VFR 800, which I still have today. Now, I sold the SV650 and decided to get my third bike. My search in the market first started off with R1s, Ducati V4s, even a couple old Ducati 996s and 998s. However, over the years, I've also test ridden a few R7s, one time at the track and one time just around the street for Yamaha R1 events. After my research, I actually decided to buy the R7 over an R1 or another type of leader bike. I wanted to make this video to discuss the factors that led me to buy the R7 over other bikes, but also to encourage people that you don't need to buy a more powerful bike or a more expensive bike for every bike that you get. The thing that swayed me from buying a leader bike wasn't because I was afraid of the power or that I felt like I wouldn't be able to handle it. Being a rider who has ridden over 20,000 miles and who is over 200 pounds, I still respect the leader bikes, but it's not something that necessarily scared me. The thing that made me not want to buy a leader bike is realizing the level of responsibility and focus I would need every time I went to ride it. Now, naturally, as a motorcycle rider, you have to always be looking out for other people, be looking out for the conditions, and also make sure you know what you're doing and are technically sound and always improving. But on a leader bike, not only are you worried about that, but you're also worried about not trying to break the sound barrier every time you get on the highway. Many leader bikes can hit 100 in first gear, and if not that, definitely well past 100 in second gear. And I realized at this stage of my life, being recently married, but also not getting to ride as much as I used to, that I probably didn't want to deal with the responsibility of having to nurse the throttle every time I got on the bike. So leader bikes were something I factored out because I didn't want my ego to get me in trouble. I didn't want to have to deal with riding too fast and going past a police officer on the wrong day or anything like that, where I would have to make decisions that otherwise I never have to make on something like an R7 where, you know, to get to 100, you're probably going to be in fifth gear if you're really pushing it, especially at my weight. I also noticed that the miles per gallon for leader bikes are worse than my car, and I know that's not something most riders focus on, but for me, seeing the gas prices rise and being someone who really enjoys the practicality of motorcycles, the idea of having a motorcycle that the miles per gallon is worse than my sedan, it just didn't really make sense to me. Also, the insurance of leader bikes is more expensive, and you have to put 93 octane in America gas into a leader bikes, whereas something like the R7, because of the type of engine it has, it inherits the MT-07 engine, it can take 87 octane gas and it'd be perfectly fine because the engine is rated for that. With that in mind, I also wanted a bike that would complement my Honda VFR 800 well. My VFR is straight pipe, it's extremely loud. Sometimes it could be obnoxious if I'm really pushing it, so I try not to push it too much. For those who don't know, it's a VTEC engine, so the first 7,000 RPM it's a two-cylinder bike, but after that, once you get to like 7,000, it turns into a four-cylinder bike, and essentially the noise doubles and is a much higher pitch. So I tend to ride it in the V2 part, but it can go V4 anytime you want to. And because that bike is so loud and draws so much attention, both from, you know, cars, but also police officers and people I may not want to draw attention from, I do like having a second bike that is more incognito. So even with leader bikes, if you have like an inline four or something like that, it's still going to scream even if you don't have an aftermarket exhaust. Whereas this R7, you really cannot hear me go past you. And that creates its own challenges because it puts more of the onus on me to make sure I'm seen, because I'm not going to be drawing people's eyes from them hearing me. But if anything, that makes me a better rider because it helps me just remember, like, at the end of the day, loud pipes aren't going to save me. It's going to be my riding ability and making sure other drivers can see me when I'm out there riding on the road. I also felt like having a bike the size of an R7 allows me to go through the gears a lot more through the town and gives me an opportunity to take the bike to the track, still be able to go around town, do some parking lot practice. The VFR gets very, very hot, so I try to keep the VFR focused on longer highway trips or things like that. But if I'm going to be in traffic, I wanted a bike that would be good at city traffic and things of that nature. I know there are some YouTubers who said the R7 sucks in traffic, but compared to a bike that can go to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, if all the coolant isn't straight, and it is a 22-year-old bike, having a bike that's only a year old, this is a 2023, with a modern engine and some different modern technology is a great compliment for me. So that's a big reason I decided to get an R7 as opposed to like another screamer, is because it's okay to have a bike that's quiet. And I don't think a lot of people talk about the power of having a quiet bike where you don't feel like you're just drawing a ton of attention to yourself. You can ride at night. You don't see police officers edging out of their holes ready to pull you over because they heard you a mile away. You don't have drivers trying to knock you off your bike because you annoyed them when you passed them, even if you didn't mean any harm. And it's just a different experience, and it's something I like. I like the ability, in a way, to kind of disappear, to be kind of invisible, and like, I just enjoy it. So that's something that a lot of people may not like, but that's something that I like and is unique to me, I guess. Another big reason I chose the R7 is pricing. If you're patient, you can find a good model R7 on Facebook Marketplace for under $8,000, particularly as we get to the colder months like November, December, January, February, and just make sure there's a clean title and things like that. If you guys are interested in a used motorcycle video and how to identify a good used bike, definitely let me know in the comments and I can get that drawn up for you all, because I think that would be important. But R7s, especially as we're going about 3 or 4 years since they entered the marketplace again, you're starting to see more and more on Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people bought the R7 brand new and paid over $10,000 stock for it, and now a lot of that, now the depreciation has started to hit in, and a lot of those people never really rode the bike because it does attract new riders. It attracts people who may not be super comfortable hopping on a liter bike, and you can get a really good version because you can get a version with very low miles because of that, because a lot of people will buy them without having their motorcycle license or being comfortable, and then they try riding and they don't really like it, and then they just leave the bike in the garage until it's time to sell. So you can get a lot of good deals on it. That was another big reason the R7 stood out to me. I did switch from the SV650. I wanted a bike that had fairings, and I decided a sport bike would be a good thing for me to experience at this time in my life. I know a lot of older riders who only ride Harleys or three-wheelers, and they say like they could never imagine riding a bike where you're hunched over like this. But I'm young, so I want to be able to experience that while I am young and my body feels fine while I'm doing it. It does force you to work on your body positioning, but it's a great opportunity to try something different, because the SV650 was a standard bike. I was sitting straight up. The VFR is a sport tourer, so I'm a little leaned over, but I'm still sitting straight up. And the R7 is a genuine aggressive position sport bike. So it's different doing things like slow speed maneuvers, because the R7 you may have to lean it a little bit lower because there's not as much distance in between the handlebars and that tank when you go to turn those bars, especially when you have your hands on them. So I felt like getting an opportunity to ride a different style of motorcycle that's still not going to necessarily get me going 100 miles an hour on accident, because you're at least at 200 pounds, 200 plus, you're not going 100 miles an hour on accident on R7. You did it on purpose if you're going 100 for the most part. And it's just refreshing to have that peace of mind to learn something new, but not have to worry about a lot of super repercussions. Now, with that, there were some things I didn't know about sport bikes that could have gotten me in trouble in the R7, but I'm gonna make a video about that at a later date. That should be coming out soon, and hopefully will help you guys out who are riding sport bikes. But lastly, one of the biggest reasons I got the R7 is it's new. There are not many YouTubers who have R7s that are actually talking about them, that are giving reviews on them, that are trying different things with them. I know there are a lot of YouTube videos about the exhaust on the R7, so I don't necessarily feel the need to cover that, but I want to talk about how the R7 is on the highway, in the city, how it is after 3 months, 6 months, 1,000 miles, 5,000 miles, how it is on gas in real life, how fast it feels in real life. how it is for someone who is 6'2" and is a larger rider, because I don't see a lot of videos on that. So I feel like there was a hole in YouTube about information on the R7 that I feel like I can cover, and it is a bike that I'm genuinely interested in. And from the time I've ridden it so far, I have really enjoyed riding it. So I felt like it would be a great boost to the channel. The first video I had on the R7 blew up, so thank you to you guys who subscribed to that video and liked that video. That was really encouraging to me, and I think that's going to be the epicenter, or like the rally cry for the next streak of videos, because we're gonna get popping on this channel. So true last thing, the R7 is a fairly popular bike if you just look like everyday bikes. So I can be, again, incognito on the bike, not just in sound, but I can be incognito in looks. Like no one can necessarily come up and be like, oh, that's ice, you know what I mean? And it's good to have that bike because I have Alicia, which is a big, red, loud, single-sided swing arm beast. And everybody knows it's me when I pull up on that one. You're not gonna see a lot of VFRs, and you're definitely not gonna see a lot of young people on VFRs. But the R7, you're gonna see a lot of people on R7s. And the idea that I can just go ride my bike and be anonymous is a good idea. It is refreshing. At some point, I may change out the fairings and things like that. But until then, I'll be anonymous while riding the R7 and be making these videos for you guys. I think the bike is gorgeous. It's quiet, it's efficient, it's practical for my uses, and it's a change of pace. Like, it's something I'm really excited to ride. I've already learned a lot about, you know what they say, you don't know what you don't know. I've had a couple moments where I learned on the R7 things that I didn't know that I didn't know. And I'm excited to share those things with you. So definitely subscribe if you guys are interested in motorcycles at all, whether you have a motorcycle or looking to get a motorcycle. If you're interested in the R7, subscribe. And I'm gonna keep pushing these videos out for you guys. Thank you guys for rocking with the channel, and I'll see you soon. Peace.